Yeah.
I love me some techno issues, man. And I'm not talking about the techno music that Tyson listens to all the time. I'm talking exactly. I'm talking about real techno issues. My internet went out earlier today too, so that's really fun due to these random pop up storms we're having. But yeah, let's get on. Let's get on with the show here.
Oh, hey.
Hey, it's United and Greek podcast. We're back again. It's another Thursday. The weather's been, we'll say another little here nor there, or here and there. It's been all spectrums today. We've had terrible thunderstorms. We've been overcast. We've been bright and sunny. We've been humid. We've been hot. We've been cool. Doesn't seem to know where it wants to go. Such is life in New England. However, we do have our usual cast of characters here tonight, and we're going to talk about our favorite football team, Vermont Green. Uh, with us tonight, we have Tyson, returning champion, beards for days.
I
What's
actually
going
had to
on?
give the old girl a little bit of a trim just
Ooh,
because it's it just got too hot. Got too hot, got too muggy. It's still good. I will say that even after I trimmed it, I was going over and picking up some takeout at McGillicuddy's over on the Five Corners over in Essex. And a server was walking over to start their shift. Saw them outside of the building, and they said, "You know what, sir? I just wanted to let you know you have a fantastic beard." I was like, "Well, thank you. I appreciate that."
listen,
Unprompted in the live.
nobody wears a beard quite like you do. You really make it look good and natural. Like it belongs on your face. I don't know what we'd do without a beard on you.
I mean, my
Truly,
wife has still never seen me without a beard.
that's
In the
insane.
entire time that I've known her, she's never seen me. It's because I don't have a chin. That's the real reason why I have it. That's the real reason.
It makes sense. I mean, it makes perfect sense. But we're gonna go from a guy with an amazing beard to a guy with no beard, but really cool glasses. I was admiring them yesterday, and Sam and I were together yesterday. It looked like it was for about a brief 6.5 minutes. If you caught the instant reaction podcast, but it was a lovely 6.5 minutes. To tell you the truth, we were together the entire game. Sam was doing his actual job down on the field, and kind of actual job. I mean, it, it's not really a job when it's fun, though, is it?
Exactly, exactly. You nailed it, Mike. But happy to be back on. Got to get to see you in person. You got to go down to the lovely state that is New Hampshire. I had a rooster try to end its own life by crashing into my car about 5 minutes from the stadium. So that's New Hampshire for you. But it was a really exciting match. Like Mike was saying, I was kind of on pitch side trying to get that lovely social media content. He was up in the kind of shaded, lovely balcony. So it was nice to see him and a decent amount of Vermont fans up there. So kudos to everyone who traveled there. But it was great to get to see you, Mike, and also to chat about the game a little bit and get to talk about it a little bit more here.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to talk about that game in the Upside Down, but we're also going to talk about the game that we were actually kind of nervous about last week, which was the New England Football Club. Um, we were nervous about it. They had some Revs Academy products playing for them. And I mean, it seemed from the get-go at Virtue Field, the fans, I mean, another sellout, another sellout. And it didn't just sell out at the game, it sold out before the game. People looking for tickets all over the place. It was crazy. It was crazy. I mean, people were going nuts for these Vermont Green tickets. They're looking on Instagram, they're looking on Reddit, they're looking us up on Blue Sky, trying to get tickets, and there are no tickets to be had. And that will lead into a discussion maybe at the end of this podcast that we'll have. But so let's get into that first match. I'm going to let Tyson kind of roll with this a bit because Tyson was kind of courtside for that match, and as was I, of course. But Tyson, give me your first impressions of what you thought about NEFC, from the kickoff, because it looked like Vermont came to play.
Well, I was actually at when I was there at the game. I was remembering what I told you and Sam in the podcast that we had before that game, was that Vermont needed to kind of be careful and make sure that they didn't get punched in the mouth within the first 15 minutes of that game. Well, it was a bit of a reverse. They went out and punched NEFC in the mouth in the first 4 minutes of that game. Um, I was kind of expecting them to, kind of come in with maybe a little bit more caution, a little bit more trepidation, just because, like we had talked about last week, NEFC has had some pretty good games against the other folks who are here in the Northeast Division. Um, but the boys in green, especially Musa, kind of ran rampant, um, and just managed to exploit some corners. I think that we had a very large number of corners that whole game. I was actually watching the stream back while just kind of doing some research for this pod, and the Brian on the stream was talking about how Vermont hadn't really been able to exploit some of those corners, those early corners that we had. But then, of course, later on in the game, we got the goal from Musa. Um, so I, it was a really good, thorough, demand, domineering performance from the green that we saw. It was a really, really good match.
Yeah, I do want to highlight, like, the again, like, and we talk about it a lot, and it seems sometimes like we're beating it into the ground, but like the midfield dominance of these Vermont Green games, these Vermont Green teams, we thought a lot of it had to do with, in the past, like having players uh like Rodri out there, right? And what he brought as a, like, a pure, like, true number six, right? Um but like, when you have a midfield setup with Esquil, Yarda, and Julian Labordalus, like, it kind of makes you, it doesn't make you forget what guys like Rodri did, right? And what Rodri brought, like, to the team, but it does, it it kind of gets you excited because you know that the club is in good hands, as far as recruiting goes, and recruiting guys who are going to play for the system, are going to play for the badge, and be able to dominate in midfield the way they do. Um, the way Esquil is, you know he's he's playing almost like a box to box type midfielder, and you don't see that often with dudes his size, right? Um, he's speedy, but he is all over the field. He intercepts balls. He puts in really, really hard tackles. He's a big body out there, and dudes in the midfield trying to run through him, it's not going to happen. And then you have Laborda Luz, who so pretty on the ball, so pretty on the ball, and then you throw in Zach Zenge in there, and then you have some serious problems if you're not prepared to challenge in the midfield. Sam, I mean, what do you think that like a midfield like this can contribute to a USL2 team going forward into say the playoffs?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think kind of like you mentioned, Eskil and Labordalu, they're just kind of like both sides of what you want in a midfield there. Like you said, Eskil, very physical, box to box, great, kind of, winning duels, winning balls off of players. But I think Labordalu is able to kind of bring that technical ability, that skill, and even for a guy like Eskil, I remember, in the game we'll talk about later, dude was almost getting bike kicks and scissor kicks. So he definitely has the technical ability. But I think you just really see it with a guy like Laborda Lu. I think he's more of the guy who's maybe replacing someone like Rodri, and just kind of being that calming presence in the midfield. So really impressed, with both of those guys, and to just also too kind of touch upon Jacob Labovitz has kind of really come onto the scene just with his ability. The last two games, being a starter, getting goals in those games, really being that striker that Vermont Green needs at the moment, was really impressive. I mean, for a guy who I assume not a lot of people had expectations for, he's essentially an Asian veteran in USL League Two terms, even though he's only like 26, 27. He's a really talented player to have. And I think, we started seeing it in this game against NEFC. He could really help this team going in the playoffs.
And when I hear both of you talking about um, Yarda there in the midfield, I kind of think back to I can't remember who it was who said it in the Slack, but in the Green Mountain Boys Slack. Um, but I distinctly remember that when Yarda was announced, that someone put in there that they had been talking to Pat and Ferna um, about this player, and Pat told them that Yarda was basically what we all hoped that Sam Layton was going to be last year. He has that same kind of vibe. He's big, he's physical, he can dominate on the ball, he can recover that second ball off of a header, he can take the ball down himself, and he can be a menace to go and lay off a ball to Labordalu or to ping the ball out onto the wing. Um, like truly, this guy is what we were, and I completely agree. He is exactly what we all hoped that Sam Layton was going to be consistently last year. Layton
Yeah,
had some very good games, but he just like wasn't fully put together the way that Yarda is.
yeah, that was the conversation that I had with Pat, and
Yes, that's right.
because yeah, just because I was when I saw him, I was so struck by his beauty. He's carved like a statue, um, uh, and and so Pat was like, he is like what we had hoped Sam Layton would be, but better.
Mhm.
Um, and you can't take anything away from the contributions that Sam made because once Sam got going last year, he was good, man. He really
Yeah.
was good. Um, but you know, I've always said on this podcast, I'm a sucker for a good midfielder, man. I love a good midfielder, because they midfielders in my mind, like especially um, well, a lot in the past with the tiki taka type Pep Guardiola Barcelona teams. Like when you're looking at that type of football, like in the past, but like now, even more now, I think in today's game, where you see um, a lot of wing backs inverting, more Pep Guardiola stuff, right? And becoming midfielders. Like the midfield is so important. Like any team that leaves space in the midfield, is going to get scored on a lot. It's going to happen, and it doesn't matter if it's your local like U15, U16 club, or if it's the Premier League or La Liga. If you leave space in the midfield, you're gonna get scored on, and it's gonna be bad days for you. And it just doesn't really seem to happen a lot with this Vermont Green team, and the way that they im- put their imprint on the game against NEFC. Um, it was like you said, at 4 minutes, it was almost over before it began. Like they
Yeah, and I,
took the wind right out of their sails. And I think that NEFC will be a good team moving forward. They'll be a good club for this division. They're going to make this division stronger. Um, but I mean, on the day, especially at Virtue Field, it's not going to happen for a team like NEFC. Not this year.
yeah, and I think especially what kind of stands out to me with Eskil, maybe compared to a guy like Sam Layton, is just that ability to physically, kind of imprint yourself into the game, to be able to win balls, to be able to maybe get in the heads of opposing players. He's able to do that and maintain that discipline. I feel like with Sam, we definitely saw him rack up some cards. So I really think that, Eskil kind of brings both side of things. And, he's definitely been an important player for Vermont so far this season.
100%. So let's not beat a dead horse here, and or a dead football club. Let's 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 go back to let's go now to the deep woods of New Hampshire.
The Seacoast.
Yeah. Oh no. Yeah. I. Yeah. No. No. 30
No.
miles from. 30 miles from.
Yes.
But I think so traveling down there as an away fan for the first time. I'd never been there. Didn't realize the whole place was fenced in, and it looked like Thunderdome. Um, and when you go down there, and you're thinking seacoast, and you're thinking there's going to be a view of the ocean. The ocean is going to be nearby. But if you didn't know the geography of the state and where Epping sets in that state, you would think you were in the mountains. I mean, that's what it looked like. We were in the woods. So we have the away day. We get there. Um, to be honest, very comfortable place to be. Outside of the bugs. The bugs kind of sucked, but being up there on that balcony made things. And we could talk about the way that they present themselves and everything out there, because outside of that, there was nothing much to be excited about that complex. The aging turf, um, the fact that the fact that the building that was there had a bar and grill that was not being utilized. Um, I think there's a lot of things that club could do to present itself a little better in the USL too, especially coming off the heels of a national championship. They didn't recruit well this year. They didn't do the things that they needed to do to show that we're here to stay. And it became clear about halfway through the season, right? So now we get to this game against Seaboats United, and they kind of roll out a B team. They had, I think we were talking to some of the parents of the players, because that was their entire fan base. Some of the parents of the players there, they have had 16 players leave in the past few weeks. Sorry. So they're running with basically their academy team against the Vermont Green team, who came and didn't necessarily do what they did against the football club. So Sam, give me your first impressions of the first half of that game. We can't really talk to Tyson about it, because another thing that they don't do well there is is a stream,
Yeah.
which is
Yeah,
what
yeah. It was
most
a
us
rough
fans
stream.
want.
Very pixely a stream if you liked dissecting pixels on a screen, kind of FM-esque. You might have enjoyed it. But besides that, it was an interesting first half. I think it's also kind of worth noting that somehow Vermont Green has had a USL League Two transfer deadline day that none of us could have expected. Saw Sam McCann come back to Vermont. We see now Benny Prego as well come back to Vermont. Also had some other players get announced as well. And I mean, kudos to Adam Pfeiffer being able to recruit those guys and bring them back. So it was great to see Sam McCann on the bench, Benny Prego on the bench. Both ended up getting some minutes in that game. But in the first half, it was kind of typical Seaghosts. They were very much sat back, kind of looking to absorb the pressure. Again, it ended up being a Jacob Labovitz, got a through ball from Pierce O'Brien, and he simply just didn't waste that chance. It's something Vermont's been missing. So, was able to get that goal and, that kind of, changed the course of the game because obviously if you go into the second half, 0-0, probably stays the same. The Ghosts end up just kind of sitting back. But was really impressed, with Labovitz. And I think it was just kind of coming down to breaking down that back line. And then when you kind of, we'll get into the second half, everything kind of changed. But, kudos to the Ghosts. They were able to defend quite well. It wasn't like Vermont was able to rack up goals. They're definitely being very stout in their defending and just being able to absorb all that pressure. I think maybe Vermont probably would have liked some of those chances to have found the back of the net. But I think the key again was a guy like Jacob Labovitz coming up clutch, getting that first goal, and leading to now a second half that can play a lot differently.
Yeah, the first half for me, like it didn't seem very typical Vermont Green. They came out a little bit slow, and that might have been due to the travel time or the fact that these guys have been playing a lot of minutes. Like a lot of these guys have been playing a lot of minutes. It's good to have guys like Benny Prego out there. It's good to have Tatsavan back, right? It's good to have Sam McCann coming back, and Sam has played a lot of minutes too, so we can't discount that. But we know we have these options on the bench, even when you have guys like Stefan and Amoni Thomas who have gone back to school, right? So I mean, we have to bring other players in. Great to see those guys back. And we'll get into like the conversation I had like later on after the game with Sam McCann, but um, that first half seemed a little bit slow. Who didn't seem slow to me, and never really does, is Zach Zenge. The dude's got an engine. He's just got an engine. He there's there's not a guy out there I don't think that's ever been on this club that bleeds green the way he does. There just isn't. And we could talk about some of the other players, but like there isn't a guy who bleeds for this club the way that he does. Um, but I was super impressed the entire game, and I couldn't stop watching him. Was Pierce O'Brien? The way he moves the ball, he's such an elegant player. The way that he moves the ball, his touches are impeccable. Like it doesn't matter what kind of ball comes into him, whether it's a fizzed ball from 8-10 feet to a ball that a big looping cross across the field. Like he brings the ball down so calmly, so confidently, and moves immediately with it. It's really kind of poetry to watch. Now, Tyson, you've had a chance to see Pierce a few times, right? U.S. Open Cup last year, and we got to see him play against New England. We've got to see him play in against AC Connecticut, and now against Seaboats. Uh, what is your impression of a guy like Pierce O'Brien, and what can he bring in a stretch run here?
I mean, I think that one thing that really stood out to probably all of us during the Open Cup game is his ability to just kind of exploit space, run onto balls. He is a burner when he is without the ball, going in and moving into space. Um, he does have some pretty good dribbling skills. I have been very impressed by his passing range, honestly. Um, he had some very, very nice weighted passes from the wing into the middle of the pitch when he was playing against NEFC. He and the other winger, was it Njike? No, wasn't Njike.
Jogby.
In Jogbe, yeah. The two of them were doing some uh, good switches back and forth on the wing, trying to go and mess with NEFC's defense. He can play on both sides of the ball. Um, I think that he provides kind of a little bit of a different player. He plays like very much a more traditional hug the line, speedy winger who can just go and bomb forward. Um, he can put in a nice cross, but also, like I said, he can also go and play a nice ball on the ground for his striker or other attacking midfielders to move on to. I just remember after having seen him um, put in a shift in the Open Cup game against Lexington, how bummed I was that we didn't get him actually on the team that same year. Um, so I'm glad that he's back with the green and able to get some game time.
Yeah, so let's move on to the second half. Second half starts a little bit differently. Um, so the ghosts get the ball. Second half, start second half. Um, they immediately kick it directly to us. You know, and I know these are young kids, but like I want to think there's a lot of tactical stuff that happened in that decision to I don't know if it was a decision, but to lose the ball almost immediately because they get the ball into the box almost immediately, and then inexplicably uh, they start to press. Um, and they were pressing high and they were pressing hard. Changed the game a little bit. Changed the outlook of the game. Um, you know, Vermont got set on their heels a little bit because they had been had they had so much possession. I bet they probably 75 to 80% possession in the first half, and this really changed the game and it set Vermont on their heels a little bit. We looked a little disorganized back there in the back, save like for a couple of really important Brandon Marshall clearances. Um, it we could have gotten a little bit dicey. Now, I mean, a lot of this I think is probably um, due to the fact that Seagoats had um, young players out there who hadn't played a lot of minutes in the USL too. So they had good fresh legs out there. Um, and it was probably a good tactical decision by their coaching staff to switch to that press. Um, it's something that Bolts did against us. It's something that AC Connecticut did against us to good effect. Um, which is come out in the second half and play a completely different game, and it kind of changed the way the game was played. I think Vermont adjusted well to it. The Zenge cross to Lebovitz for the second goal was just it was beautiful. Um, it wa- and but it it really did put Vermont on their heels, and they had to work a lot harder. Sam, talk about how the game might have changed, and actually gave gave the New Hampshire team a bit of an edge in that second half.
For sure. And I mean, even looking at the first half, I think it's worth mentioning that, C Rose, was able to get some chances on the counter. And, almost could have even walked into halftime with a goal, maybe even two. But, just weren't able to convert on those chances.
Yeah,
But then,
they hit the woodwork at one point.
Yeah, so on the second half, really put Vermont under pressure, and you have that Labovitz goal, but up until Labo was able to get a second goal, it really seemed like there was the potential there for the draw level, and really force Vermont to kind of show its resolve and show its ability to be able to pull out a game, and obviously, that stadium, our we'll call it a stadium, isn't exactly something that Vermont enjoys being at. Had some tough matches there. So it would have been a real big test. And I think, being able to get that goal, be able to withstand some of that pressure, like you mentioned, I think, Brandon Marshall had a great game. You look at that back line, great recruitment overall. Haven't been able to see a lot of Rui recently. It's really just been Musa and Brandon, and they both done a great job. So was impressed with how they handled the pressure and looking to the goals that Seagulls would eventually score. I mean, they were real kind of out of nowhere goals in the sense that they were very pacey shots. Can't really blame someone like Jubel and Michel. They were absolute lasers. Maybe you want better defending. Maybe some guys were tired. Um, but overall, Seagulls was really able to put the pressure on and kind of make Vermont earn this win. It definitely after the Lavovitz goal kind of cooled off a bit. But in that second half, they really put Vermont under pressure, and it was crucial that Vermont took their chances and didn't just let it be a nice 1-0 or 2-1 win. They need to go out and score, not for goal differential, but to make sure that they actually got the 3 points.
Yeah, I mean,
Now,
goal differential is not going to make a bunch of difference for us this year. Just based on the dominance over the Boston teams, from the Pioneers. But yeah, totally agree with that. Um, Tyson, I mean, obviously the stream wasn't the greatest, but like, what are your impressions?
I mean, I think that the only real impressions that I was able to take away was that kind of amazing stumbling goal that was scored by Reved as that third goal. Like that was a great piece of determination of managing to go and to curl that in with the outside of your boot as you're literally stumbling and falling down. Um, that shows great skill, great determination. And, honestly, seeing that performance that the New Hampshire teams, basically youth products, went and put out against, a very much changed Vermont Green side. I think, we were all talking before the pod, and this was the 11th different lineup that Coach Taylor has used this season. But kind of my overarching kind of feeling is, and I know that this may sound heretical, but just kind of bummed out about the fact that Space Ghost, they won the entire USL2 last year. They've had kind of years of dominance under their coach, Alex Ryan, who is now an assistant coach up at Portland Hearts of Pine.
Should be their head coach. That's another
Bobby
discussion for another
Murphy,
time.
Whoa!
I was going to say, Bobby Murphy has done very well with that team, with, I believe, one of the youngest teams in the entire USL Championship. But yes,
Well,
conversation
one,
for a
one,
different
but that's
time.
okay. Yeah.
You can bring that up at the next USL or at the next
Round
New
table.
England Soccer Roundtable on the Blazing Musket. There you go.
Yeah, Sean
Um,
doesn't listen. Sean doesn't listen to this podcast anyway, so he won't take offense to that.
but they they turned down an invite to the US Open Cup this year. They have had in our division, in the 4 years that Vermont Green has been an entity, they have either won or come in second place in the Northeast Division.
They've bested
This
us every year. Yeah.
every single year. And as to hear, both of you kind of describing your trip to the stadium, kind of what it looks like when you get there, it's like this is a team that, in my mind, could be or should be drawing tons of fans there. What else are you going to do in New Hampshire? As Mike calls it, the upside down. You know, it's the ugly Vermont. What do you got? You got Hampton Beach, you got York. You know, no, York's in Maine. Yeah, you got Hampton Beach. I mean, what else are you going to do in New Hampshire? New Hampshire doesn't have any real sports teams. There's no pro sports teams there. They've got what, that other UPSL soccer team that's talking about potentially making it into the USL One or the USL Championship. Like, it just smacks of so much wasted opportunity of having all of these academy players and all of these really, really good players that have been on their teams over the past couple of years. And it's just like you're playing out in the boonies in front of a bunch of parents and mosquitoes and a rooster with a death wish.
Yeah, yeah. It's like it's the rooster from Moana, basically. Um, but it's a classic example of looking a gift horse in the mouth, right? You don't know what you've got until it's gone. you know, and it really sucks that. I'm going to point out that Sam just blew me up on our chat.
I mean, this is called. I'm the site manager of the Blazing Musket. I need this content. This is called running a website. I need this content.
So the content was about Bobby Murphy being replaced by Alex Ryan, and he brought it onto the chat. He brought it on the chat. Sam chose violence today, and you know what, Sean Fecto, he's part of the Dorigo Union. He works he does some stuff for the Blazing Musket. He's a good writer. He's a good contributor. He's a good dude.
Just interviewed Bobby Murphy on their coaches corner talk they had.
Calls out Sam for wearing raincoats.
Well,
But he
okay,
did say in
I'm
2.5
squashing this.
he did save 2.5 years in 2.5 years. So, Sean, if you do listen to this podcast, I will let you know when Alex Ryan becomes your coach in 2.5 years. You're going to see the most boring defensive football you'll ever see in your life, but you'll win games. And maybe you'll be promoted to the USL Championship, and then
USL Premiership, my friend.
Well, you have take your steps. Take your steps. They have an infrastructure thing. So, talking about infrastructure, and it's a good segue, I think. And to move along with the kind of the subject matter of the end of the last podcast. We had this subject matter of college, of the NCAA running a full season, and that's all well and good. It's going to crush. It might crush some of the lower leagues. It might crush some of the northern schools, the northern Midwestern schools, the northeastern schools, depending on how they set up the schedules or breaks or whatever. But we have some words that came out of the Vermont Green camp today about infrastructure.
Can I read those words to you?
I was
Yes.
gonna ask Tyson to read those words because they're big. They're big. And maybe we want to read too much into it right now, or I mean, we are a podcast. That's what we do. We react inexplicably, and sometimes we're right, sometimes we're not. But this is pretty big ITK coming out of the founders' mouths, right?
I was going to say, I believe that this is out of the mouth of Matthew Wolf. He posted this on the match preview for this coming Saturday because of the news that this coming match this Saturday, as well as the following midweek match next week, have both been sold out already.
Yeah.
And also the match against NEFC was sold out on Wednesday for a Saturday game. And the quote is, "When the season wraps, we're going to have to start seriously thinking about additional soccer infrastructure. Until then, let's will these boys to victory."
Okay, so let's talk infrastructure. We got the notification from USL2 or from the USL about a plan for what 26-27 for promotion relegation. Still nothing in terms of plans, but or how it's going to work, or rules for infrastructure. We talked about it on the Blazing Musket Roundtable a couple of months ago, and I guess what I'll turn this to Sam, because what does additional soccer infrastructure mean to you as a reporter of this kind of stuff? Because and I know you're smiling on this, but like, and reporters are, typically have to make assumptions because of the way that owners, the way that coaches, the way that players oftentimes speak and kind of code. But what does that mean to you?
Yeah, I mean, I guess, from just being kind of, quasi involved with the club and, being up there in Vermont, and maybe just, the wording of infrastructure for me kind of goes more to building. I guess, maybe it's just almost, having to hear about infrastructure bills, in a similar way. Maybe this is about building up, where Vermont Green plays, not in terms of a complete stadium, but maybe just bettering where they play. I mean, it would be lovely to be able to pack more people into, a place like Virtue Field. I mean, I don't know how many USL League Two clubs, I would say probably not a lot, have their own stadiums. So I think, that would be, maybe that's the dream. Maybe that's, the stretch goal, if you will. But if you look at kind of the goal, I think maybe it's more just trying to make the most of, what you have at Virtue Field, continuing to better that experience. I mean, we're coming off the heels. Forgive me, I don't know if it was Annapolis or if it was a different club. But I believe it was USL League Two. Again, forgive me if I'm wrong.
It was Annapolis,
pulled 10,000 fans.
It was 20.
I think. My apologies. So yeah, if you look at that, and no offense to Annapolis, don't necessarily know if there's a big soccer culture there. Clearly, there's
They're
something.
mid-table. They started off hot. They're mid-table now, but like still.
Yeah, but clearly there's something there, and I think if you look at what is currently in Vermont, clearly the support is there. Obviously, when you start thinking about moving up divisions, getting maybe involved in different setups, it's more of a bigger discussion. It comes down to money. It comes down to the ethics of a club. Tyson brought it up, when we were talking about ProRel and kind of changes that, it would take a lot in terms of somehow being able to figure out how to not completely ravage the environment when you play up in Vermont, and you're going to have clubs. Portland just played AV Alto. They're a West Coast club. You have these West Coast clubs. So I think it's more about some very important steps, but maybe more baby steps in terms of improving what you have. But I mean, just the sense I get from people, people always say that Vermont should be in USL League One, and that it should be there, that they're almost outgrowing USL League Two, that they're a big fish in a small pond, but now it's time for them to maybe jump into that bigger body of water. I don't know if we're at that point yet, but I think they're definitely looking for ways to bring that soccer community, continue to kind of cultivate it, build it, allow for maybe more people to be in attendance in matches, not have to sit, on the hill. I assume if anything was to be brought up, and it would allow for Vermont, University of Vermont, to get more in ticket sales or what have you. I assume they'd be ball game for it. So I think there's maybe, when I think of infrastructure, I think of playing playing location, kind of upgrades, if you will. That's kind of where my mind goes.
And I am right there with Sam. I think that Sam hit the nail right on the head. I think that with the success that Vermont Green has had this year, I believe that Vermont Green have sold out every single like regular season home game. I don't believe that they have sold out um or I don't think that they sold out their two friendlies or their any of their friendlies this year, but I believe that every single regular season home game has been a sellout. Last year they sold out more than half of their games. Um and then, combine that with the success of the UVM men's soccer team. um I think that, you know just the look at the landscape of Vermont. Think about in your head how much money it would take to buy land, develop land, build a stadium that is done in a environmentally correct way, in an ethically correct way. There's just not a lot of real estate that exists. Um, I think truly in my heart of hearts, I think that um, the the Green are. I think that they are seriously going to look at doing some kind of, maybe pitching in for a stadium expansion at Virtue Field that would help out both the Green as well as the UVM soccer teams, and all the other various sports teams that play at Virtue Field. Like, I know that everyone online likes to say that Vermont Green should be in the USL one at a minimum. Um, I think that that is very easy to say when when you look at our crowds, you look at the great pictures that are taken that show all of the smiling faces at Virtue Field. Um, it's a great look. um, I think that before there is any kind of even remote chance of the Green going professional, they would want to see if they could fill an increased capacity stadium. Um, and I think that that's something that UVM would get on board with. Quite frankly, it means more people. It means that UVM would get more money from concessions. I think that, I, and this might be venturing into a dark place, but I think that if Vermont has any kind of like real true desire to build any kind of soccer specific stadium, they would need some kind of multimillionaire investor to come in, because as great as the current ownership is, we love them. Of course, they have created a great thing in Vermont Green. They do not have bottomless pockets. They, kind of created this thing with love and a prayer. They've put their own blood, sweat, and tears, their own personal equity into making this thing happen. And what they have accomplished in 4 years since 2022 is amazing. Like, I don't think that we can say anything more than that. Like, what they have been able to do, the program that they've been able to build is fantastic. It's I obviously haven't gone to see any other USL2 games, but I bet you that fans in the Midwest, in the South, in a bunch of other parts of this country would gladly trade the current atmosphere at their games for something that even remotely resembles Vermont Green. I sent a message into the USL2 Discord about the fact that Vermont is having a fan bus that's going and driving people down to the game against Western Mass. And people on that Discord, and there's like 2 to 3 thousand people on that Discord. They were shocked that there was that kind of interest in going to see an away game of any kind of, USL2 team. What we have here in Vermont is really special. It's really great. And I think that we should all really appreciate that, even if it's not at at a professional level. I think that just the community that has formed around this team that we three and many other people are a part of is really special. It's really beautiful. And, it's all nice to get very into, you know, the pipe dreams of, the Vermont Green Stadiums somewhere. But I think that we are still very much in baby steps territory.
Very good. I mean, that's super super well put by both of you actually. I hate to throw a wet blanket onto this, but um, UVM, we know what UVM does, right? I mean, they promise these big, huge, giant things and don't deliver, right? Um, in my estimation, and whether it's correct or not, take advantage of what Vermont Green has brought to Virtue Field and has brought to their men's and probably their women's soccer teams at the university. But we know by being part of the supporters group and setting up our tents and our tailgates at Gutterson Arena parking lot there, when we look out on there, we have set up for the last 4 years, and all we see is a construction zone in front of Gutterson Arena. Beautiful, beautiful, the beautiful fascia of Gutterson Arena, classic Gutterson Arena, and we have construction fencing across the front of it. It's been 4 years now. It's been 4 years that we've been doing that and setting up our tailgates there, and engaging the fans and engaging the other fans and having fans, set up their own tailgates and building this thing that we call Vermont Green. UVM can't even finish their project at Gutterson Arena and Patrick Gymnasium, right? The Tom Brennan Court. I have no faith in the way that they fleece the Vermont Green on on the cost of leasing the field and the rules and regulations that they put on the green to be able to play there, because they know that they can take the money from the green and take from the green what they want to. And I don't like the way that the university operates in general. And maybe I'm out of place saying this right now and right here, but I don't have any faith that the university is going to help the club, our club. And this is and the founders will say it is not their club. Sam and Patrick and Matt will never say it's their club. It's our club. Anybody who buys a ticket, it's your club. Anybody who buys a jersey, I don't care if you don't go to the games, you just watch on TV. You buy a jersey, you buy a cap, you buy a scarf. It's your club. You're investing in the club. I don't have any faith that UVM is going to do anything, and it's evidenced uh, in the fact that on the hill they have destroyed the view from the hill in front of Gutterson Arena there, turning it into a construction zone because they're building locker rooms right there. They're taking an opportunity away from the community to watch the games. and because they know that the fans go there when the games are sold out, they can watch for free on that hill. They're taking that opportunity away. It drives me nuts. It's the same thing that drives me nuts about my professional team. You know, is that they'll spend money in some places, but they won't spend it in the proper places. I don't have any faith that UVM is going to put stands on the other side of the field. I don't have faith that UVM is going to put stands in the home goal on the on the south end of the field. Um, so as far as infrastructure goes, in the way that Matt talked about it, I think infrastructure means to me, uh, what it means is building building the club into more of an entity where it's going to eventually, not necessarily soon, but eventually be able to survive on its own as an entity and enter into the professional ranks. It's going to take time. It's going to take time. 4 years is not going to do it. Look at Ballard. Ballard probably should have gone in years and years and years ago. But I think that it's going to take time. And I think when Matt is talking about infrastructure, it's about building the infrastructure, the internal bones of the club to be a self-sustaining club. Um, and it's going to take a lot for UVM to realize, in my eyes, that Vermont Green built that national championship for them.
I think it would be interesting, kind of, Tyson, and just, the sense that you get from the club and club owners that, it's not necessarily their club, even though they put the money behind it to, start the club, that, it is fans club. I mean, maybe this is just me off and kind of, dreaming, but, I think of clubs, more professional. So, there'd be that barrier. But, Orange County, other, I believe, Oakland Roots. I'm now noticing a trend here in California teams. But you look at these clubs, and you look at it maybe also too in Europe. Maybe some of the German clubs, the 50+1 rule. You look, a lot of people will know Wrexham, how they have a fan council, and their fans are involved. Again, I don't know how much money this would raise, how much this would make a dent in what it takes to become professional, to maybe become that entity that you're saying, Mike. But I feel like maybe, for some of those fans, the almost Green Bay Packers, to make it American football wise, of being able to own a piece of the pie, if you will, to be able to call yourself a shareholder, to be able to call yourself someone who owns Vermont Green. I mean, I'll just speak for myself. I would love to put obviously not as much as Pat or Sam or Matt put into the club, but if I can chuck a nice 50, a nice hundred, and to say that I'm technically an owner of a club, and that a lot of these things, they come with decision making kind of abilities and being kind of involved in the behind the scenes process. I mean, it would be interesting to see how that would play out, how much money would be raised and what have you, but again, maybe it's just that dream. Maybe it's just, being a bit too optimistic. But I'd be interested to see, just because of the brand that Vermont has been able to create, not only in Burlington, but throughout Vermont, throughout New England, and I would dare say throughout the United States and Canada. What that interest level would be like. I agree, if this club was to go professional, and I would dare say, even if it's to, grab a women's team, if they want to start a women's team, it would take a significant investment.
It
And
would.
obviously, for the ethos of the club, and the ethos of where you're getting that investment, I think it would be quite difficult. But I think maybe if this club is looking for some sort of fundraising, I understand they definitely don't want to fleece fans' pockets, and they don't want to take money away from fans' hard-earned money when everyone's quote unquote struggling. Everyone is money doesn't go as far as it used to. But I think it would be interesting to see, maybe in the simulation, in a far off world, what would happen if Vermont, did something on like the We Funders of the world, kind of opened it to that Green Bay style, to that fan kind of participation and ownership and funding, and just how far it would go.
I think the community would support something like that. Um, And just to put like a nice little whipped cream topping on this, I think you look at the way that they funded this team, the way that they founded this team. These guys Kevin Smith the shit out of this team, right? They took their credit cards, they took their credit cards out, they put all their last dollars and cents into this team, uh, on a hunch, right? Kevin Smith, same thing, like Clerks, right? Like he mortgaged his entire life on his credit card to make Clerks, right? And what happened? Gold happened. With these guys, gold happened. And it's not to say there aren't other investors behind the club, but these are the three faces. These are the three guys who started this club, and this is their baby. You know, this is their child, right? And to see the club grow up like this, I give everything to a guy like Matt Wolf. I give everything to a guy. I would give all of my money to people like that who have a vision, who can make it work, you know. And there I don't think there's an investor in the world who wouldn't want to buy into this, right? Who wouldn't want to buy into this? There's not an investor in the world. But I can tell you that yes, the mission of the team, the mission of the club does put a little bit of a handcuff on it. That's not to say there aren't benevolent millionaires out there, benevolent billionaires. There may be one or two, um, but it will take a significant investment to bring us to where we want to be, and and if it's going to be done by these three guys, and even Keel, who I think is still involved, like if it's going to be done by these guys, come on, man, bring it. Bring it. We're here for you. We will support you. The Green Mountain Boys will support you. We will buy in. Like we will do what we have to keep this club here and to keep this club running. And I think this club this year has the talent to be a mid-table USL one team. I think they have that kind of talent. Are you going to pay them to do that? That again, that's a lot of stuff, man. And I know we've been going on for an hour here. Um, and I really thank everybody for staying with us here. Tyson has been frozen for the past 15 minutes, so
He's just smiling. He's
he's just
he's
smiling.
a chirpy guy. So I assume if he wasn't frozen, he would still be like that.
Yeah. And Tyson, who reportedly had fixed his internet, like I'm Techno Mike. He's not Techno Tyson, you know. But in the end, I just want to I do want to thank every single person who supports us, who supports Sam and his work at the Blazing Musket, who supports the Blazing Musket. Um, Again, we're partnered with them. They provide so much content for New England soccer from our very own Vermont Green, the world famous Vermont Green, all the way up through the struggling MLS team in Foxborough. Uh, Look, they provide a great service, great content for free, but they also do a paid tier, which gets you all kinds of extra stuff. It gets you stuff from Sam. It gets you stuff from Seth. It gets you stuff, God, from Sean Fecto. I mean, in Hearts, right? I mean, it gets you a lot of extra stuff. So if you can handle it, go out there and support them in their paid tier. But if not, please just support them by you know going to their website, checking out what they got. We are there. Raising Anchor is there. Portland Hearts of Pine are there. Hartford Athletic is there, for God's sakes. Like, go out and support them, support us, and you know, do what you can. Yeah. Just to end us off tonight, guys. I want everybody to go out there, tread lightly, be safe, and protect your mental health. And most importantly, up the green.
Up the green and up the green for Tyson.